Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radhika Raman Radhika Krishna Vadamali Giriju Ki Jai Ho. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Slakaya Chakshu and Militamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitamina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Maha Vandanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaur Tvashe Namaha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'd like to offer my heartfelt Puspanjali to the lotus feet of my Harinam Diksha Guru, our Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. Second of all, I'd like to offer my heartfelt Puspanjali to my Bhajan Shiksha Guru, our Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and to the entire Guru Parampara, and especially to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and his Mādhurya-kādambinī. And today is a very special day. Here in Vrindavan and in India is Makara sankranti. And so today we celebrate the descent of the Ganga. The Ganga descended today. Now there's many stories, many in different kalpas, let's put it this way, of the descent of the Ganga. As we know, one Vamanadev put his foot way up, taking all the land away from all the cosmos, away from Bali Maharaj, and he pierced through the coverings of the universe, and the causal ocean came down. This is the Ganga. It's actually the lotus. It's the water that bathed the lotus feet of Vamanadev. Another is, we know that Bhagirath Maharaj, he prayed and prayed and prayed, and then the Ganga descended. So there's different pastimes of how the Ganga descended. But today, in India, all over India, the Vaishnavas, and even just the local persons that aren't necessarily Vaishnavas, but in India, pretty much everyone has some conception of Ganga Devi and her divinity, God, some form of Bhagavan, like this, or demigods. So they take bath, especially in the Ganga, anywhere in the Ganga, in the Jamuna, in the ocean. The most favorite place is where the Ganga hits the ocean. This is called Ganga Sagara. And there'll be millions of persons taking bath here today for the auspiciousness. And also in the Godavari, other holy rivers in India, and even those who have this consciousness all over the world. They'll be taking bath in the ocean somewhere. Many Indians will take bath in the ocean, let's say in Hawaii, in America, anywhere like this. Because the ocean is continuous. The Ganga is somewhere there in the ocean, the Jamuna is there, Mahaprabhu and so many saintly devotees have taken bath in the ocean, in the rivers that flow into the ocean. Very special, auspicious day. And Makara sankranti is it's related to the sun. As we know, the sun passes through so many different phases. Not phases. It goes through in how do you say it? In astrology, it goes through all the zodiac, the 12 signs. So today it's going from Sagittarius to Capricorn. and Makara is Capricorn. So Makara sankranti means we're now entering Capricorn, leaving Sagittarius. But also in the material world, around the planet, there's lines. And there's a line called what do you call it?
In English.
The something Capricorn. There's a word for it. I forgot. Anyhow, it's the line of Capricorn.
Yeah.
Then there's the equator. And then there's a line of Cancer. And so Capricorn is more north. Cancer is more south. So today, the sun has been going north. And so in the northern hemisphere, it's been getting colder and colder. Today, the sun turns around and starts going south. And then it will go all the way down to the line of Cancer. And then in the north, it'll be Tropic of Cancer. Yeah, the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. But right now, in the southern hemisphere, it's hot. They're having summer. You know, so anyhow, yeah. So today is the sun turns. And so for most persons who are, especially Hindus, they very much appreciate the sun and how it gives life to all living entities. So because today is very much related to the sun, they also give special preference to the sun today. Mm-hmm. And then they're taking their bath in the Ganga, and also they're giving donations. It's a very important day for them to give donations. But as we know, the most important donation to give is Hari Kata. So anyone can give donations. One doesn't have to have a lot of money to give donations. You have to excuse me, I'm having an allergy problem today. I will do my best to give class. So if any way or other we can give some Hari Kata to even one other living entity, even to ourselves, I suppose, or to anyone, give donation of Hari Kata today. It's the most important donation. Also, this day is very, very famous because there was one devotee, one very amazing devotee. Can't remember how long ago. She lived shortly after Mahaprabhu's time, so maybe about 400 years ago. Her name was Ganga Mata Goswamini. But I forgot what her birth name was. Vishnupriya? No, I forgot. Huh? I can't remember what it was.
I think
Or Lakshmi Priya? Anyhow, she was born in East Bengal in a place called Putia, and she was a princess. Her father was a king. And but at an early age, she heard about Krishna and she fell in love with Krishna. And she just wanted to marry Krishna. She just wanted to worship and serve Krishna. All she could do was, she had a deity and she was serving Krishna. And then her parents wanted to get her married. And she said, no, my marriage has already been done. I'm married to Krishna. She refused. And she told her parents that she was going to go to Vrindavan. And she was prepared to walk to Vrindavan. Mm-hmm. But her parents wouldn't allow that, so they sent her with some persons that took care of her and they brought her to Vrindavan. And then they left her here. And she was asking every tree, every creeper, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? She was completely absorbed in trying to find Krishna. Well, at that time, there was a disciple of Rupa Goswami named Haridas, and he was serving in the Radha Govinda temple. He was giving Hari Kata. Very, very renounced, very, very elevated devotee, simple, and completely in line with Rupa Goswami. So when she heard his Hari Kata, she became so attracted and so enlivened that she approached him for initiation. Now, he didn't really want to give initiation. That wasn't his desire. Because she was so sincere and she was crying and begging, he finally gave her initiation, Harinam. And maybe Diksha too, I don't remember, guess so. And he gave her instructions how to do bhajan, how to chant, how to worship Radha and Krishna and become the maidservant of Srimati Radhika. But he told her, I cannot take care of any of your external affairs. He didn't give her a place to stay, how to eat, anything. He said, you're going to have to arrange all that, but I don't want you to be alone. So he did put her in the care of an older Vaishnavi, who was fairly old, who was also very advanced in devotional service. And so she herself just found a broken down old temple, and she lived in a broken down old temple. She had one piece of cloth, very torn cloth. She would do Madhukari, beg, and everyone wanted to give her things, but she didn't want it. She would eat a half a chapati. That's what she would do. And she was absorbed in her devotional practices, chanting, and remembering. And so finally, her guru, she was living by the Jamuna, told her, you go to Radhakund with your protectress, with this older Vaishnavi, and you stay at Radhakund. And she stayed at Radhakund for 25 years, doing her bhajan. Very, very renounced, very renounced. And then finally, he was old, her guru was old, at that time, after that 25 years, he said, now you go to Puri, and you will attain perfection in Puri. And also the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is there in Puri. It is very dilapidated, run down. I want you to renovate the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. It's a very special place. Mahaprabhu had so many pastimes there. So the old lady was already passed away, so she went by herself to Puri. And when she got to Puri, she found the broken down house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. She made, what's described, she made herself a house out of leaves, just a leaf hut. And she was living there and chanting. And she started giving Hari Katha. And it was mainly 10th canto, like Ras Panchajaya, Venugit, like this. And when she was giving Hari Katha and other subjects, she would be crying because she was so advanced, So everyone was attracted to her Hari Katha. Even the king came in disguise to hear her Hari Katha. And he wanted to give money, but she didn't want to accept things. Anyhow, excuse me. One time it was Makara sankranti, and she heard that so many millions of persons were going to go to the Ganga, to the mouth of the Ganga Sagara, and take bath. So she got an intense desire to go and take bath with all the pilgrims in the Ganga. But that night at midnight, what happened? In her dream, she heard this huge rumbling and roaring, and the Ganga was coming herself. Coming, and the Ganga picked her up and took her into the Jagannath temple and put her at the feet of Lord Jagannath. Ganga Mata. That's why she got the name later, Ganga Mata Goswamini. And it's understood that because the Ganga is actually coming from the lotus feet of Krishna, really Krishna himself, or some others say Ganga is also a Saki of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. Anyhow, took her and put her at the lotus feet of Jagannath. So it's like Jagannath himself came and picked her up and brought her to him and put her at his lotus feet. So she was so astonished. But in the morning, when the Pujari opened up and he saw her there, he was very upset. And what are you doing here? But she was so absorbed in her bhajan, and she also knew he wouldn't understand. She didn't say anything. So he thought, oh, you're a thief. You've come to steal the jewels of Lord Jagannath. And he had her put in jail. But she didn't say, she was just chanting. But then, to the king, Jagannath appeared in his dreams. I guess it's the next night or soon. And he said, you've made a great offense. She is a great devotee, a very great devotee. So you have to go beg for forgiveness. You have to take a golden palanquin, and bring her back to her place with big sankirtan, and you have to take initiation from her. So they brought her with big sankirtan back, and they begged for initiation. But she said, no, I'm not interested in giving initiation. My guru never told me to give initiation. But then again in her dream, Jagannath said, I want you to do this for me. You must take initiation. You must give initiation. So then she initiated the king and the Pujari and so many personalities. And And she helped so many devotees. And then the king at that time, I think was able to donate and help renovate the Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. So it's in good condition. And there's more stories about her, but anyhow, the main one is today is the day that the Ganga took her into Jagannath temple and put her at his own lotus feet. This is very beautiful. Ganga Mata Goswamini. So we can remember her today and pray for her mercy, because Srila Narayan Maharaj, I was with him, I think it was in Australia on this day, and he was telling the whole pastime, and he was saying how all the women should take shelter of Ganga Mata Goswami and try and become like her, like that. Because we don't have so many examples. For the men, there's all the 6 Goswamis, the whole Guru Parampara, it's like, but for us, there aren't so many examples. He also said Janava Devi, the Shakti of Nityananda. We should also try and become like her. So there we go. Okay, all glories to Makara sankranti, the descent of the Ganga, and Ganga Mata Goswamini. So now we will come back to the third shower of Mādhurya-kādambinī, and we're proceeding on, going deeper and deeper into Sadhu Sangha Anartha-nivṛtti, the eradication of anarthas. So we're going into it. What Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is talking about now, after he talked about, last week we talked a lot about, let's see here. Oh yeah. About seva aparadhas and how they're eradicated by constant chanting and going on. But not having the idea that by chanting I can, all my aparadhas and seva will go away, so I don't need to be very careful. No. We have to be very, very careful, and if only by accident we commit some seva aparadhas, then by offering our prayers and chanting, our offenses will be eradicated. Now he's bringing up a very important point, but it's very subtle actually. The question comes up, so if you're going along your path of bhakti and you somehow omit a limb of bhakti, or you don't complete a limb of bhakti, is that an aparadha? Is that an offense? Some people will say it is. So many people will call so many things offense. Oh, you didn't do that? Oh, that's an offense. You didn't do that? That's an offense. But no, bhakti is not like that. Bhakti is perfect, actually. And she's completely transcendental. Completely transcendental. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes the point that even if you start some practice of bhakti and you can't even finish it completely, you still get the fruits of your bhakti. That is the nature of bhakti. It's not like karma. It's not like yoga. It's not like any of these things. You have to do everything perfectly in karma and in jnana and yoga. Then you can get the fruits. And if not, you don't get anything. But in bhakti, even a little bit of an endeavor, that is perfect actually. And you get that result. And it keeps building and building, So, and he gives the example that bhakti is like a golden nugget, or a golden piece of gold, right? And a piece of gold can be thrown in a very nasty, horrible place where all these garbage things are, right? And it may be all covered in everything. And the nasty things filthy things will all decay and they'll go away. But eventually that gold nugget, one can take that gold nugget, wash it off, and it's still a gold nugget. It hasn't been contaminated. It hasn't deteriorated. It's still a gold nugget. That's a mundane example, but that's like bhakti. Bhakti cannot be contaminated. It doesn't deteriorate at all, even if in one sense it's in a filthy place. No. Bhakti is completely transcendental. So we should go on practicing bhakti and never fear that just because we can't do our bhakti perfectly, that there's going to be some fault, or it's an aparadha. That's the main thing. It's not an aparadha. Like some persons will say it is, but it is not an aparadha. Let's say, even if you start your practice of bhakti, and due to some circumstances, you even leave your bhakti for this lifetime. You leave it. You go away. You abandon your bhakti. Still, the results of that bhakti that one has practiced is there. The fruit is there. It never deteriorates. It's always there. So then in a future life or a future time in that lifetime, when you pick up bhakti again, by some good fortune, then you get the fruits. And eventually, by going on, what do we get? We get prema. We get love of God. Because there's no offense.
It's a little bit like the mood of the lost son.
Of what?
Like the story of the lost son in the Bible, for example.
Oh, I don't.
Is it a little bit this
Probably.
kind of
I forgot that story, though. How does it go? I don't remember. Even though I was a Christian, I don't remember that son so well. I mean, that story.
So there was a father with two sons. And the younger son came to a point where he didn't feel like I can stay with the family. I want to look everywhere.
Oh.
I want to go out.
Oh,
the world, this ganze Mut, the world is mine. I want to see everything. I don't want to stay with the family. I want to explore the world. So the father and the brother were very disappointed because the son was needed to help with everything. So, but the son left. So, but he didn't have so much luck outside. And after a while, he came back, like really poor, dirty, not in good condition. I was crying. But when the father saw the son coming, it said he made a feast for him. He made a feast for him. Right. So, and he was so happy that he was coming back, not considering, oh, he left me alone.
Right, yeah.
And anything. This mood was not at all. The best things he gave, it was said, the best bull was slaughtered, this kind of things, things you, in this time, you just did for weddings or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's like Krishna, Bhagavan is our father. And yes, he's always very happy to have us back. When we've wandered off, yes, when we wandered off, he's very, very happy. Very happy. Especially when we attain perfection and we go back home, back to Godhead. That story is there in the Vrindavana-vilasini of Sanatana Goswami. And if in the last part of Vrindavana-vilasini is the story of Gopkumar. And Gopkumar gets the 10-syllable mantra from his guru, Jana Sharma. It was actually Krishna himself, come in the form of a sadhu. But he's chanting, he's going through so many different, he goes to heaven, he goes to Siddhaloka, he goes here, he goes there, he goes everywhere. And finally he makes it through Shiva Loka, he makes it through the Brahma Jyoti even. Finally he reaches Vaikuntha and Lord Narayan. And Lord Narayan says to him, I am so happy to see you. He says, thank you for coming. Thank you so much. I wanted you back for unlimited time. I tried so many ways, but you always escaped me. I finally had to break my own rules to somehow get you back. Now that you're here, I am so happy, so grateful. Isn't that is a kind of love that we've never experienced here in the material world. Even our own father and mother aren't that deep, But this is Krishna. Krishna's the source of Narayan. So you can imagine Krishna, how much, when Gopkumar finally makes it to Vrindavan, Krishna faints when he sees Gopkumar has made it there. He is so happy. He's weeping when Gopkumar finally makes it to Vrindavan. Out of Vaikuntha, even he goes to Ayoji, goes to Dwarka, and finally he makes it to Vrindavan. Krishna is so overjoyed to see him. Thank you for coming. I've been waiting for you. I've been longing for you. So this is Krishna's longing for us. Srimati Radharani is longing for us to come. We're part of the family. Like you said, we're the long-lost son, the long-lost jiva, long-lost jiva. And they're waiting and waiting. And see, one of the points that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making, that the reason why, if we just somehow don't do one of the limbs of bhakti, and this isn't meaning the primary limbs of bhakti, like hearing, chanting, remembering, associating with devotees, avoiding bad association. But what we're talking about here is really, they are called primary limbs of bhakti and secondary limbs of bhakti. Now there's 64 limbs of bhakti. They're spoken about by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And I won't go through all those today. But the first one is to, approach a guru, take initiation from a guru, surrender the guru, hear from him, follow his instructions. These are the most important primary limbs of bhakti. Associate with the sadhus, chant Hare Krishna, give up our sense gratification for the pleasure of Krishna. This is primary, And the most important is chanting. As we know, in Harinam is the number one in Kali Yuga, like that. And there's 5 most important. What are they? Hearing, especially hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting Hare Krishna, remembering, let's see, hearing. Sadhu Sangha, living in a holy place and serving the deities. And
Namakirtan, Bhagavatsava.
Yeah.
To live in Mathura.
Okay, so those two are separate. To live in the holy place and to do the seva of the Thakurji and Tulsi like this. Those are the 5 most important. But let's say taking Charnamrita of the Thakurji. That is more like a secondary limb. So if we somehow, because we're like so absorbed in our chanting, not because we're just being lazy or we just don't want to do it, and we'd rather go out and watch a movie or something. No. That is different. Then that's not very favorable. But it's not an offense, because, you see, it's not committing sin on the strength of the holy name. You know why? Because to commit sin on the strength of the holy name means you have to have a sinful mentality. And someone, like in this category, they don't have a sinful sinful mentality. They're not thinking, I'm not going to take that Charnamrita because I'm going to go out and kill something, or I'm going to go out and do something sinful. And then if I come back and take Charnamrita and chant Hare Krishna, I'll be delivered from this sinful activity. I'll be atoned. No. It's only when one has a sinful mentality, it's called Papa Buddhi, you see, then that's an aparadha, you see. But if someone doesn't have the intention of sinning, then it's not an aparadha. So there's a fine line there. If one, just because he's either too absorbed in his own practices, and he doesn't, let's say, take Charnamrita, or he doesn't go out and worship the cows. You see, there's 64 limbs of bhakti. There's a lot. And some of them, we may not do all of them, because we're absorbed in the primary limbs of bhakti. That's not an aparadha. Because the mentality is not sinful like this. But if we think that we do have a sinful, we commit some forbidden activities, and we think by chanting or by offering prayers that we can be, excused from these. No. That is an aparadha, like that. Excuse me. Also in this part of the Mādhurya-kādambinī, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he quotes a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, a very famous verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll read you the English, not the Sanskrit. And he talks about this verse in depth in regards to this point. It's a verse from the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. 11, second chapter, text 34 and 35. Now this is a text that's spoken by Sri Kavi Yogendra, and he's speaking to King Nimi. And in this Kavi, it's interesting. The Yogendras, there's 9 Yogendras. Nava means 9. Who are they? These are also sons of Rishabdev, the incarnation of Godhead Rishabdev. His first son was King Bharat Maharaj, who became Jad Bharat. There's a whole pastime of him in the 5th canto. Well, he also had 9 sons who were very exalted. These are the Yogendras, very enlightened. So one of them is speaking this verse to this King Nimi. So the verse is like this. It's a very famous verse. I'm not going to say the Sanskrit. But he says, by following all the methods Bhagavan has prescribed himself, even ignorant persons easily attain their eternal well-being. So that's interesting, because the method, which is Bhagavad Dharma, which is Bhakti Yoga, is given by Krishna himself, is completely accurate, it's infallible, it works. You see what I mean? It's perfect, because Bhakti Yoga is given by Krishna himself. And he's saying, even the ignorant, so it's there for anyone. Anyone can follow it. And it's easily attainable for their eternal well-being. This is Bhakti. She's eternal. She is self-manifesting, and she is all auspicious. All auspicious. So then he goes on to say, Sri Bhagavan himself established this Bhagavad Dharma. Know these methods to be Bhagavad Dharma, or Bhakti Yoga. O king, by taking shelter of Bhagavad Dharma, a person will never be hindered by any obstacle. Never be hindered by any obstacle. That's a deep statement. We'll go back and talk about that. Like there's no material impediment. Doesn't matter whether you're a man or you're a woman. Actually, if you're born in India or born in America. Nowadays, many persons in India think that you cannot take to this properly unless you be born in India. That's the caste system is there. But it's a degradation of Bhagavad Dharma. It's not the actual truth. Anyone, by the mercy of a self-realized soul, bona fide guru, and by Krishna's mercy, can become eternally perfected. Attain their eternal swarup and go back home, back to God. And let's put it in simple terms. There is no impediment. This is the words of Krishna himself. So, and then this is the interesting statement that he makes. Even while running on this path of bhakti with his eyes closed. That's a very interesting thing. It's called Mādhurya-kādambinī. Even if you're running on the path with your eyes closed, that is to say, with some lapse in his proper observance of the prescribed rules and regulations, he will not stumble or fall from it, nor will he be cheated of its ultimate result. Now that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So you're running along with your eyes closed, still you will not stumble, you'll not fall, and you'll ultimately get your the results. And what it means, it doesn't mean that you're ignorant. That isn't what it means. It means that actually, there's many different meanings, but one of the meanings is, let's say you're climbing a mountain, And you got your path up this mountain, and your goal is the top of that, that peak. You're going to climb the mountain, Mount Everest, okay? And you're running along because you want to get there really quick. And you're taking long, long steps, not little steps. So you're just going, and it's not that your eyes actually, you're just not seeing anything but that goal. So also on the path of bhakti, if one has got the goal, I must attain my eternal swarup. I must attain perfection. I have to attain prem. I have to attain my seva to Radha and Krishna, my eternal spiritual form, so I can serve them. Perfection. I have to. And so and then he hears, well, the most important is chant Hare Krishna without offense. So he just chants, and he's chanting. And he doesn't really, now I'm not saying that, let's say, so you're chanting, you're absorbed in your chanting. This is a high level. Usually beginners aren't so much like this. But this is an example. And you're just chanting, and you've rested a little bit, you get up and you just become absorbed in your chanting, and you forget. Not that you deliberately don't, but you forget to, let's say, put on your tilak. That's a secondary limb of bhakti, actually. Or you forget to take charnamrita. Because you're absorbed in praying and chanting and remembering. Because this is the most primary anga of bhakti. There's no offense. And it's not that real devotees will criticize you. No, there's no loss. You will attain the results of your practice. It's an amazing quality of bhakti, because the practice of karma is not like this, the practice of jnana is not like this, the practice of yoga is not like this. Only bhakti. Only bhakti is so kind. Excuse me. So a very, very beautiful, beautiful verse here. And let's see here. Okay.
Which number was it? 11, 2?
Oh, 11. The Bhagavatam Tam verse is Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 34 and 35. Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty simple to understand, but it's pretty amazing. Okay, so then he's talking about how closing your eyes doesn't mean that you're ignorant of stuff. It just means you're so absorbed that you forget, or you don't have time. Like this. But it never means that we stop the primary limbs. Doesn't mean that. We never stop chanting. If one decides, well, I am just going to do something else and I just don't have time to chant. No, that's not recommended. Chanting is the primary anga that we do. And sadhu sangha, primary anga. Like this, giving up the association of non-devotees, primary anga. We don't think that, okay, I'm just going to chant Hare Krishna day and night, but I'm having a little bit of difficulty in the temple. I'm going to go out and live with these people over here, and they turn out to be drunkards or something. That's not going to, no. This is not favorable. It's not an offense, but it's foolishness. Foolishness. We have to practice the most important angas of bhakti. Okay. Yeah, and he also, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that if we don't practice all the angas, it doesn't mean that we're actually being disrespectful like this. We're not. One will not be disrespectful. One is simply absorbed in the primary angas. Okay, let's see here. Oh, and then he brings up, because then someone might think, well, okay. So also in the seva aparadha, we talked about last week. So then I don't have to be so careful about them. I can just be, doing my practices of bhakti, and they really aren't so important. But they are. Why? Because as said here, bhakti yoga is given by Bhagavan himself. So these seva aparadhas, they were given by Krishna himself. So it's not that we can disregard them. They have to be done. If accidentally we don't do, that's different. But if we think that, okay, it doesn't matter if I'm wearing shoes in the temple because I'm just chanting, no. No, he has said, don't wear shoes in the temple like this. So we have this. That's why it's very subtle. What we're talking about now is subtle. It's actually a consciousness, isn't it? It's a consciousness of wanting to please Sri Guru, to please Mahaprabhu and all of his associates, and ultimately become qualified to please Radha and Krishna. We're pleasing Radha and Krishna now in the form of Mahaprabhu, the combined form of Radha and Krishna. And we're being trained. But mainly, our consciousness is being transformed, isn't it? It's a transformation, or you might say an evolution. Because it's not that we just start chanting right away and immediately our consciousness is like Rupa Goswami's consciousness. Not usually, because most of us are coming out of a very conditioned life and our consciousness was not exactly like Rupa Goswami. No, we had our intense desires for sense gratification. And so therefore we have lust, envy, anger, greed, etc. Right? So bhakti means selfless. So gradually we're being transformed to become selfless. Our consciousness, it's not that the body, the material body, we're not the body, we're the soul. And the soul is spiritual. The soul is consciousness, actually, is our mood of seva. Our spiritual body is composed of our own unique mood of seva. That's amazing, isn't it? How beautiful. That's who we really are. It's our own actual individual mood of rasic seva to Radha and Krishna. It's our ras, our bhav. That's who we are. It has the form of a little manjari. How beautiful. But a few things have to be removed, right? before we are entitled, you might say, to, it's very difficult to say in English what actually happens, but when the anarthas are eradicated, which is where we're at, eradication of anarthas, next week we will begin with the 10 offenses to the holy name, which are very important. Anartha-nivṛtti, 10 offenses, let's get rid of them. So when they're finally gone, what happens? The soul is able to emerge. Or you might say blossom. We're talking of the blossoming of the Bhakti Lata. We're able, prem will come, bhav will come, prem will come, and automatically we will be situated in our real swarup. Our consciousness, it's the consciousness, because right now our consciousness is situated in our material body. Thinking, I'm this body, I am. And even when we come to intellectually understand, because of the Bhagavad Gita, our gurus are explaining to us, you're not the body. We say, okay, I believe that, I'm not the body. But yet, our consciousness is still conditioned to react as the body. Like if someone comes along and punches you in the face, you're thinking, I'm hurt, I am hurt. But actually, I am not hurt because I'm not the body. But our identification as I has to gradually evolve to be the spirit soul and to actually who we actually are, Just like Rupa Goswami, his consciousness, I am Rupa Manjari. That's who I am. Now, it's interesting in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, I'm studying the story of Jad Bharat, which is Bharat Maharaj is also the son of Rishabdev, like this Kavi of the 9 Yogendras. And of course, as you know, it's a famous story. He gave up his kingdom, he took to devotional service, and he attained a high level, but somehow, by Krishna's arrangement, he became attached to a deer. And he gave up his spiritual practices. They were covered. He didn't lose them, but he had to take his birth as a deer in his next life. But in that next life, he remembered. He was so fortunate. He could remember everything. And so he immediately thought, okay, I'm so sorry for what I've done. I'm so sorry. I will never do this. So then he takes his birth as Jad Bharat. And in his birth as Jad Bharat, he's enlightened. He's a Paramahamsa. But what does he do? He acts as a dull, deaf person. His father's trying to train him. His father's a high-class Brahmin. He refuses to learn anything. He will not make any material connection or relationship with anyone in the material world. He does not want to make a mistake again. He doesn't want any affection for his brothers, for his mother, for his father. He acts like a deaf and dull person. Even some dacoits catch him, and he's going to be offered to goddess Kali. He's going to have his head cut off. Whatever Krishna wants, he does not react. Because he's absorbed. Actually, it's not that he's just detached. Because you cannot do that. He is attached to his spiritual process. I'm not sure if he's worshiping Krishna. I'm not exactly sure who his form of Bhagavan is. That I don't know. It's not clear to me. But whatever form of Bhagavan he's serving, he's totally immersed in his service to Bhagavan, and he's not relating as a material body at all. This is just the 5th canto. We have to make it to the 10th canto. 5th canto, we're not the body. And the king, he's carrying this palanquin. The king starts abusing him because he doesn't carry it properly, because he doesn't want to kill the ants as he's walking along. The king threatens him this and that. Nothing. He is not affected. Not affected by the abuse of the king or anything. Nothing. Nothing can disturb him. That's just one of the steps until finally we receive full prema. And the material body is completely gone. Completely gone. It's been our vehicle to do sadhana bhajan. That's what it's for. But eventually we will attain our siddha swarup, meaning we will be, our consciousness, we will think, I am a maidservant of Srimati Radhika. That's who I am. And if we're sent back to the material world, once we've reached that, never another material body. The gurus in our parampara, they do not have material bodies. Prabhupada did not have a material body. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, even though he appeared here, it was not a material body. Material consciousness, material body is finished when one attains prema. Everything completely transcendental. Like this. This is our goal. Anyhow, it's getting late here. We should stop here. And next week we will further dive into eradication of aparadhas, meaning nam aparadha. And this one's very, very important. Nam aparadha. Okay, so I think, let's see, yeah, that's it. Okay. Thank you. Panchakalpataruscha, Kripa Sindhu Vedita, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo.
Yay. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhattavrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai, Nitai, Jai, go. How do you stop?